How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and I'm here with my friend Justin, who is a fantastic real estate investor, student of Thatch Win, 41 rental properties, been investing since 2016, retired in 2022. But instead of me just telling you his story, I want him to tell you his story because he invests in 4 different states, bunch of different types of real estate. Justin, welcome to the show. Please, can you give us your background? What got you into real estate and moved you towards financial freedom?
Awesome. Thanks, Melody Mike. Happy to be on the show. What got me into real estate was, it doesn't sound very good, but I was kind of in this inflection point in my life where I was like a really high demanding job. I was working at Amazon, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this forever. And then, my retirement portfolio at the time hasn't been building, and my dad at the time was sick. We didn't know until later that it was cancer, and I was like, I've got to do something different with my life because I could very easily be fast forward another 20 years and, you know, I'm not retired. And so I was like, I've got to figure something to get out. Now, I was very fortunate at that time. I was getting all these Amazon RSUs, restricted stock units, they were coming my way. So I was like, what's like an average Joe person thing that they can do to get out of the rat race, out of the W-2 life? So I did a bunch of research and I was like, man, it seems like this real estate is the way to go.
Mm.
And so that was in 2016. And then, so I ended up making my first purchase was a house hack, August of 2016. And I ended up renting it. I purchased it. As soon as I purchased it, I put on at Amazon, they had this thing called for sale or for rent, these email lists that would blast out to all these people in Seattle. And like within 5 minutes, the guy goes, I'll be there tomorrow. Okay. So ended
That is
up
high
renting it
demand.
ended up renting it like literally one day, putting it out there. 2,300 bucks. I remember today. I still have the check in my safe. It's like
Nice.
my first check I ever got. And so that was my first property that really got me hooked because at that point in time, where my mortgage was, I had the mortgage and then I had the income coming in from the tenant. My net out of pocket, I want to say it was around 800 bucks, somewhere in that ballpark.
Mm.
Obviously way less than I was paying in rent, which was around, I think it was around 2000
Right.
before that. So I'm like, I'm making the most money in my life, but then I'm having the lowest cost structure. And I'm like, well, how do I do more of this? I need to just rinse and reapply the
Mm.
same process because I still have more of these RSUs coming my way,
Right.
and it's time to spend. This is my one shot, my one opportunity, my Eminem moment, and I was
Right.
on.
Nice. Okay, so you buy the first one in 2016 in Seattle. This is a very similar story to what I tell people. It might just in 2018, but I was paying 2,000 bucks a month in rent. I moved into a duplex that I started house hacking. But at some point along the way, I said, it's very expensive to keep investing here in Seattle. I'm kind of interested in looking out of my market, out of my state. And I ended up in the Midwest. So did you. How did you end up there?
So when I was getting into real estate, I was at Amazon and I was in finance. And at the time, what I was doing for finance was analyzing new warehouse locations for Amazon.
Mhm.
And so I quickly realized, the math is pretty simple, because for Amazon, they'd spend like 20 or whatever million, right, to lease this building to finish it out. And it was just about net present value. How much money given today, and then how much cash flow in the future, discounted to today, does that make sense or not?
Mhm.
What I did in Seattle, I was like, well, I don't have a lot of cash, but I want to keep going. So then I started looking outside of Seattle, and then my brother lived in Yakima, which is 3 hours east of here,
Mhm.
and I ended up finding a deal on LoopNet. So that was in August of 2016. Then May of 2017, I bought an 11 unit in Yakima.
Nice.
That was my first purchase. I think it was like 285. And then I was like, okay, I want to keep going, but how do I find something better? I was listening to Bigger Pockets. This young guy, I don't know his name, was on Bigger Pockets talking about Milwaukee.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, I'm going to Madison in that would have been August of 2017. Let me check it out. I went there and I was like, this is like Seattle with one less zero at the end. So duplexes in Seattle back then were like 600K. I ended up buying my first property 2 months later after I went there from August to October, bought the first property, 62,000 for a duplex.
Wow.
Each is a top bottom, 650, 650.
That's
So you don't even need a calculator. Gross was
fantastic.
1,300. My payment was like $300,
Right.
so like, you know, it just cash flowed for days. Now, what you learned and what I learned is like, looks great on paper, but what are you actually going to get? So there's a lot of deferred maintenance, and I kind of, learned that over time. Like, not everything on paper translates. So
Mhm.
as I continued to buy, is like, how do I get into better areas, better tenants, better quality of buildings? So it's a when it does say 10, 20, whatever percent cash on cash, that actually goes into my pocket, not
Mhm.
a hypothetical.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's got a real great spreadsheet return, but it never actually
Yeah,
materializes.
exactly. It's a supermodel on paper, but in reality, it's not, right? Because like it only matters what you actually put in your pocket.
Mhm. No, agreed, 100%. Okay, so first one Seattle, second one in Yakima, and then you're looking into Wisconsin. But how did you go from 3 to 41? Because there must have been some like 6 month period of time where you just bought everything.
Yeah, it was 6 months, every 6 months. So
Right,
meaning
okay.
I just was heads down buying, right? So that number three was in October 2017. Number four is December 2017.
Right.
And then from there, it's kind of fuzzy. I was just so focused on I'm going to get out.
Mhm.
I had proof of concept. I was doing these things. I had money coming in, and I was just heads down as fast as possible, cutting all costs, and then taking all my income, and then buying these properties because I figured out I could do these commercial loans on these. So I was only having to bring 12, 15,000 to the table to buy
Right.
these duplexes. So I was like, buy, 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 buy. Then I ran out of money. So then I was like, why don't I 1031 out of the Yakima 11 unit? So I
Mhm.
sold the 11 unit and I bought five duplexes and a triplex, like in, I don't know, like a 90-day span. And, from there, I was basically buying every other month. Um, and then, we can talk maybe more about this later, but you're going to run out of money. And
Right.
so the first 19 were all through me, whether
Mhm.
me personally or my business, and then I own some in my retirement account as well.
Mhm. Okay. Did you convert that? Was it like a Roth IRA or something? You converted to an self-directed?
I went to self-directed with the largest one that's out there. It's very
Quest?
cumbersome, so then I switched to a solo 401k,
Okay.
checkbook control. So that helped me. But the only other way to grow is I did some partnerships. Then I got into creative financing, and then now I'm in the combo. Is if you can do a partnership, creative financing, and creative funding, you do all those together, you can get into a deal. Like I've gotten into a deal this just a couple months ago where I got paid to buy a property.
You,
So the more creative you get, the better you can get, or more deals you can do with less money out of pocket. That's the secret on how you can scale. Cody and Christian, multifamily strategy, I believe, is their YouTube channel. That's how they've been able to do it.
Mhm.
Is find the right sellers, creative financing, and creative funding. That's the
Right.
real secret to scale fast.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, I think on that topic, on that point, the one question I would ask, because I agree with you totally, creative funding and creative seller, I just went out of my head. Creative funding, what did you say? Creative funding and creative financing?
Financing. Yeah.
Okay. They are the way that you scale quickly. However, do you think that that's what somebody should do for their very first deal or their first two deals, or should they cut their teeth with something a little more basic first?
My thing is I'm always like, just do it, like get her done. Like
Mhm.
if it's an opportunity, take it down. Meaning if somebody, say a friend of the family or that somebody, they need to sell this property. If you can work the terms out, great. Reach out to me or to Mike or somebody in your network to help you. if you had no experience, the best route to go would be have an agent in whatever the market that you're in to help you find those deals. They're looking at everything all day, every day. So once you figure out, like Zuber talks about, you figure out your buy box,
Mhm.
that agent is gonna just put as many properties in that buy box so that you pull the trigger and buy. So um, I'm about path least path of resistance and just massive action. So whatever's there, kill it. So I mean, I'm just imagining like if you're in the woods and you're hungry, whatever comes in front of you, shoot it, kill it. Got to eat, man. You know.
Right, right,
Then you figure out, man, I don't like rabbits or whatever, right? And then you move up
right.
to deer or whatever. So you've got to figure out what your niche is, and sometimes you won't know that until you get into it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And I tell people this all the time. If you're not actively learning everything you can about creative financing or seller financing, you're doing yourself a disservice, because in this market, that's pretty much the only way you can make a lot of deals work, is if you come up with some sort of creative strategy that's non-conventional, non-traditional. Justin, we got other videos and other topics we're going to talk about next. I just wanted to get your history of you on the books. So started in Seattle, rapidly grew, bought like crazy for 6 months, multiple 6-month periods in a row. And then you made it to retirement in 2022. If you don't mind sharing with us, what type of passive income did you hit before you finally pulled the plug at Amazon?
So the short answer is I don't know what the answer was. I didn't even know until honestly like 2 months ago, because I was doing a with Thatch Nguyen on I did a webinar with him, right? And there was like I think he had like 12 or something thousand people signed up, and I'm like, the money was coming in and then I'd buy. Money comes in, I buy. Like that's how I operated. Like I'll figure it out later, right?
Right.
So when I actually did all the math, and this is before I had sold some, it was like 45 properties, 125 doors. It was around 115K roughly gross coming in, assumes everybody pays,
Mm.
and fully occupied. Total was net 18, and then I do have some partners on some. So like my specific portion was 11,
Mhm.
and for me, and I think this is where a lot of people get to is yes, 10,000 is generally the number you hear, right? That's a good
Right.
number to live off of. But I think when for what happened for me is I was evolving to where I know that I can survive on my own.
Mm.
And once you have that, it I already had, I don't know what the number was at the time. I'm sure it was like 8 or 10,000 or something. But
Mm.
for me, it was I made money in wholesaling. I made money. I was like a flip. I made 50K. Wholesaling I made 45K.
Right.
I just got my license, and I have like call it 8,000 whatever for the passive income. I'm like, that's only not even 20% of my time, right?
Right.
The other 80% I was working at Amazon,
Yeah.
and I was like, the first 6 months of the year, my non-Amazon was the same as my Amazon,
Hmm.
and it's like 1/5 of the amount of work.
Right.
What if I went all in? That's when I went, right?
Yeah.
So for me, originally, I had a target I was trying to hit, but I was like, once I had that internal confidence of like, hey, I can go out into the wild and
Mm.
I can go take down properties. I know I can make money. All right, cut me loose. Let's go.
That's right. Daddy can bring home the bacon, especially if I get
Yes, sir.
80% of my time back.
Exactly.
Well, shoot, Justin, this has been super cool. We got a couple other topics to talk about, like I mentioned earlier, so we're gonna get to those here in just a minute. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next time.